Alrighty, welcome to the Nethercutt collection. As you can see, we normally do vintage and antique automobiles and mechanical music devices. So these are our two largest restoration projects. We'll start with that beauty up in front. That happens to be a 1937 Canadian Pacific Royal Hudson steam locomotive. She was state-of-the-art for 1937. She had what we call a stoker. The steam-powered screw lays up underneath the tender and automatically feeds the coal up into the firebox. So there's none of the classic shoveling coal on her. She carried 21 tons of coal, 14,400 gallons of water, and had an operational distance of approximately 80 miles.
Much weight.
She's a hungry girl, what can I say? But she was very powerful, so she needed a lot of fuel to move things. But she spent her time on the East Coast going from Toronto, Canada to a place called Thunder Bay, Ontario. It was an 811-mile one-way trip. She'd be service sent back home again. She did this for over 30 years. She received her royal status in 1939 when the King of England, King George VI, and his wife, Queen Elizabeth, traveled across Canada and back again. So impressed was the monarch by the performance and reliability of the Hudson locomotives that he bestowed royal status upon the entire class.
Yay.
Oh, thank you. Well, actually, prior to World War II, in Great Britain and Commonwealth countries, that was a very rare and a very high honor. Of course, the monarch could not very well knight a locomotive, so the best thing he can do to show his appreciation is to give it royal status, and that gives us the privilege to put the King's crown upon her running board. After she was phased out by the Canadian Pacific, she was sold to a group called the Southern Railroad. They used her as an excursion train going from Atlanta, Georgia to New Orleans. She did this for over 20 years. She was even used in a movie in the early 1980s called The Coal Miner's Daughter. That's her one movie bit, nothing else. But after over 50 years of reliable service, she finally did have a major breakdown. So she was sold to a group in eastern Pennsylvania who wanted to restore her and use her as an excursion train there. So they promptly took her apart, sent parts all over the country, and ran out of money, creating one huge basket case. She was under threat of being scrapped, which would have been sad because she's one of 3 remaining Royal Hudsons in the world. There's one in Montreal, there's one in Vancouver, and there's ours. Mr. Nethercutt heard about it. He went, he purchased the locomotive. We got all the old parts, paid all the back bills, and brought everything out here and restored her on site. During restoration, we were very fortunate to have a gentleman living out in Hemet, happened to be the fireman on engine 2839. So, not in... Is that the right number?
Correct.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. So, I'm sorry I had a senior moment there. I thought I gave the wrong number out. But he was the fireman on that engine. So he had pictures, he had plans, and most importantly, he had paint chips. So we were able to restore it to exactly as their glory days with the Canadian Pacific. As you can see, we have restored it to running condition, but we have not fired it up because we'd have a really short trip. But when you get to the cab of the locomotive, you may play engineer, and as you heard, when you find the bell, you may ring it. Comes highly recommended. So we had this beautiful locomotive. We needed to pull something. We went looking for a car. We found this one. This is a 1912 Pullman Palace private rail car. Private's the optimum word. This is the private jet of 1912. Before you had commercial aviation, before you had paved roads across the country, if you were wealthy, you purchased one of these, you paid a fee to the railroad, they hooked it up behind a passenger train, and you went anywhere you wanted to go. This one was purchased by Clara Baldwin Stocker. She was the eldest daughter of Lucky Baldwin. He's the gentleman that donated the land for the LA